Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Simply Structural. In the first part of this video, I will discuss on some of the important terms that you must know before designing the columns. So first is the difference between the column and the pedestal. So if my slenderness ratio is more than 3, then I will call it as a column, and if it is less than or equal to 3, then I will call it as a pedestal. By the slenderness ratio, I mean that the ratio of the effective length of the column to its least lateral dimension. Now, there is a difference between the unsupported length and the effective length. So first of all, the unsupported length is the clear height of the column. For example, I have a flat slab which is supported by the column C as shown in the figure. So here the unsupported length will be the clear height between these two floors. Now in the next case, for example, I have two beams which are present on both the sides of the column. So here in this case, the unsupported length will be measured from the bottom of the beam to the bottom floor. However, if there are two beams B1 and B2 which are present on the both sides of the column C, then in this case I will measure the unsupported length from the beam which is having the lesser depth. So here in this case the beam B2 is having the lesser depth, so I will take the unsupported length from the beam B2 to the bottom floor. However, the effective length is the distance between the points of inflection, that is the points of zero bending moment, and the effective length depends on the unsupported length and the types of restraints. So for different types of restraints, IS 456 has given a table. So in this table, for example, for the first case, that is when both the ends of the column are fixed, then we will take the effective length of the column as 0.5 L. If my one end of the column is fixed and the other end of the column is hinged, then I will take the effective length as 0.7 L. If both the ends of the column are hinged, then I will take the effective length as 1 L, and so on and so forth. There are different cases given in the table. So this table will be used for calculating the effective length of the column while designing the column. Next is the classification of the columns. So based on the cross section of the column, that is based on the shape of the column, I will classify the column as rectangular, square, circular or polygonal based on the architectural requirements. Next classification is based on the slenderness ratio. So if my slenderness ratio is less than or equal to 12, then I will call the column as a short column, and if it is more than 12, then I will call it as a long column. Generally the short column will fail by crushing and long column will fail by buckling. The next classification is based on the material. So if my column is made up of steel, then I will call it as a stanchion. If it is made up of wood, then I will call it as a post, and if it is made of RCC or PCC or masonry, then I will call it as a pillar. Now the next and the most important classification, which is based on the loading. So if my column is having a load which is exactly acting at the center of the column, then I will call it as axially loaded column. And if my column is having some eccentricity, that eccentricity may be about one axis or maybe about both the axes. So if my eccentricity is about only one axis, then it will have a uniaxial bending, and if the eccentricity is about both the axes, then it will have a biaxial bending. So for example, in this floor plan, all the columns C1 are axially loaded column, all the columns C2 which are present at the edge are the uniaxially loaded columns, and all the corner columns are the biaxially loaded columns. Generally axially loaded columns are rare in the practical case, and as per IS 456, even if the columns are axially loaded columns, then we will design those columns for minimum eccentricity. So generally we will only see uniaxially loaded columns and biaxially loaded columns. The next type of column is based on the type of transverse steel. So if we are providing transverse ties for supporting this longitudinal steel, then we will call it as a tied column, and if the ties are in the spiral fashion, then we'll call it as a helical or spirally reinforced column. and if my column has a central core which is made up of concrete and it is surrounded by a steel tube, then we'll call it as a composite column. And if my column has a central core which is made up of steel, that may be made up of I section, and it is surrounded by a concrete outside that I section, then we will call it as composite column. So in the case of composite column, we have two types, that is there may be concrete inside the steel tube or there may be steel inside the concrete. And the function of this transverse steel, that is the function of these longitudinal ties, is to support the function of this transverse ties is to support the longitudinal reinforcement. And in the case of horizontal forces which may act like the horizontal forces like wind or earthquake, these reinforcement will resist the shear force, and the transverse ties will also increase the ductility of the column.
That's all for this video. In the next video, I will discuss on all the codal provisions of IS 456-2000 that we will use while designing the columns. Subscribe to my channel Simply Structural and press the bell icon for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.